James Kaufman, World News Report today. Ladies and gentlemen, we've just had another X-class solar flare, and this one had a much bigger bite than the first one. Now currently, we're looking at our KP indexes. We're not in a geomagnetic storm. We have 3 coronal mass ejections inbound per NOAA and NASA, and one really is hitting now. So the next shoe that you see drop on the 3-hour windows of these bars is going to be a geomagnetic disturbance or probably a storm. I have looked ahead at the Discover satellite that's 1 million miles above Earth at Lagrange point 1, and it has been hit in just the last hour. So expect the first coronal mass ejection to impact Earth within the next moment or two. And remember, we still have the X 1.8 solar flare that did create a halo coronal mass ejection. No, all of the ejecti was not sucked up back into the filament. There was a large halo eruption associated with it, which means a CME. NASA has said that that CME will be a direct hit on Earth. And now we've had another X-flare that's most definitely going to hit Earth, i.e. we have 3 CMEs inbound, the next one hitting within the next hour. All right, let's start off with today's X-flare, an X 1.22, 1.25. We'll get a better reading in just a second. Everyone's thinking, well, that's not very strong, James. Well, let me say that because it ended up being an M flare for over 4.5 to 5 hours. It created a proton storm, a very large proton storm. And ladies and gentlemen, this is going to have a huge geomagnetic effect on Earth, especially if our shields ended up being south or down at the time. This is the next CME that's coming in after the one that's headed in right now. Let's take a look at the 7 days so we can see what's about to hit. And that's going to be this CME right here from November 7th, believe it or not. And, well, although you're thinking it wasn't very strong, it was very strong. And that will be impacting within the next, 1 hour period. So that's what we're facing. We're facing this M flare, the X 1.8 and the X 1.2. We'll clarify that here in just a moment, when it peaked and when it started, etc. All right, and of course, AR 4274 generated that X 1.21. We came really close, right? You can see the X 1.79, the strongest in 72 hours. And that started at 8:55, 9 o'clock, and ended after 10. And that's probably within the X range. It was in the M range for well over 4 hours. The peak was at 9:19 UTC time, so 2:19 Central Time last night. Currently, they're giving us a 25% chance of having an X-class solar flare. That ship has sailed. A 70% chance of an M-class solar flare, which is funny. Technically, we haven't had an M-class solar flare, but we had an X-class solar flare that was in M-class territory for over 4.5 to 5 hours. So I would say that that ship sailed as well. We've been running a C-class baseline, currently a C 1.71, 99% chance of having a C flare, and we've had, well, quite a few of them, as you can see here via the list. Looks like we have a fairly complex sun. Let's take a look at the solar spots on our sun. Over at HMI intensogram, it looks like we have 1 delta class Sunspot group. AR 4274 produced both the X-class solar flares that we've seen. We also have a beta gamma Sunspot group 4276 down here. And we have 5 additional simple sunspots. And 4277 looks like it is morphing into a more complex sunspot group. Thus, we have 7 Earth-facing sunspots on our solar disk currently. Now, this is a better look at those sunspots. This is the Delta class. This, believe it or not, is the Beta Gamma. And I've talked to y'all about 4277. It is definitely morphing. And perhaps 4275 may be as well. Looks like, well, we have some sunspots that are going around the limb here that have not been named and are just developing late. Remember, it takes about 12 days, the sunspot's near the equator, for it to transit the Earth-facing side of our solar disk. Now, everyone teased me when I put Killer X flare the other day down, and let's just say, y'all must have not seen my report on the correlation between heart attacks and strokes and hospitalizations during even slight geomagnetic storms. They're up 20 to 30%, and sometimes even more so in middle-aged women. So that all came from National Institute of Health.gov and, well, Harvard and several other medical institutes that have just started studying the effects of these geomagnetic storms on the human body. May I also say that we don't have any shields as we did in 2003 when the larger X17 solar flare popped off. The shields are gone. They have dissipated. That's what's causing the Schumann resonance to spike so high. So we're in a whole different situation than we were during even the Carrington event, and especially during the 2003 solar peak and solar activity. What you're looking at here is a ghost proton flux, and the 10 million volts have passed right through the space weather warning threshold. So we're getting blasted with protons. You can see it moved the 50 million volt line in blue. This means that we're probably going to be in a polar absorption event, which means radiation is pouring into our poles, which are not protected by the Van Allen belts, and actually seeping through our magnetosphere onto, well, us, if you will, and all the living things here on Earth. Over to GOES 19 solar ultraviolet imager. You can see the flare here. It looks so insignificant. So insignificant. NASA and NOAA have already confirmed a halo ejection. I do have that on LASCO. We will take a look at it. I just can't even imagine that, first off, it's long-lasting, and second off, well, it's an X-class solar flare. It just doesn't light up like one, but it sure did move that proton count, didn't it? We are in a polar absorption event, and we're about to be in a geomagnetic storm as well. This is a crazy day. I'd also like to point out these sunspots and these filaments that are erupting coming around the limb here. Look at this one especially. That one looks especially bad. That looks like it might have caused the X flare, although they're giving credit to the sunspot here, our Delta class sunspot, AR4274. So we have to go with what they're saying now. But look at that pop right there. I guess it was what we call a sympathetic solar flare, i.e. more than one is popping off at the same time. This looks like it's going to bring us nothing but trouble, and that should line up with this, well, right around the time period that I gave y'all, 19th, 20th, 21st, that we should be in large trouble with that planetary lineup. All right, over to Lasco C3. We know this thing happened. Got some rocks coming through there. We know this thing happened. There was a flare. That must have been backside, which means we got more fun to come. This happened right about 9:38, right about there, and you can see it. Look at that halo eruption. Easy to spot, even on Lasco C3. Now, what we don't see yet is the protons from a proton storm, i.e. the little white specks that we would expect to see. I guess those should start any moment. Over to the Space Weather Prediction Center. And, well, I don't think these guys are even going to work. They have the 10th here, plasma going up as high as 15 centimeters cubed. This is the impact that we're supposed to be taking right now as we speak. They had it started on the 9th. That did not occur. They've pushed it off to the 10th. And they guesstimated that solar winds would be starting on the 10th at around 675 and ending up on the 10th at around 450. I'm guessing that's not going to be what we see at all. Again, a big waste of manpower and money at NOAA's Space Weather Prediction Center, which we just paid millions of dollars to upgrade this little spiral. Unbelievable. And as promised, you're going to see the flare hit. Let's see. Well, those are the protons coming in, forming our polar cap absorption event. Looks like we might have missed the actual flare itself. Look at the radio alternation on the right, guys, going off. We're getting pounded. Imagine the radiation causing this radio alternation over here. There will be no use of ham radios or any type of marine radios in the Antarctic or Arctic circles, or probably much of Alaska and Canada for some time now. Now, this is the end of the flare. The flare happened over the Indian Ocean, and this is the beginning of the polar absorption event. Remember, it was 2:39 Central Time last night when this hit, which put it right over the Indian Ocean. Wow. All right, real-time solar wind event. Our shields are up. Great news. Although, really, we can see the red line here goes below zero, telling us our shields are headed down. So I think that they're going to jump down for this event here, which I believe that we've already entered here over the last 3 hours. You can see the 27.09 there. If you'll recall, the Space Weather Prediction Center said that 15 would be a top. There's a 23 there. There's a 24 there. A 27, a couple of events here, the 23, if I can grab that one, but basically it looks like we're just entering that CME. Again, the shields are up currently, but that doesn't mean much. Here, we have solar wind starting the day, not at 675 as they had it, but at 525, going down to 450, I don't know. They said 675 to 450. I say 525. And we're not done with the day. 527 to 560. It's going the wrong way, guys. 562. It's going the wrong way, guys. I will say that temperatures are dropping off and are very mild. So we'll have to see. But I believe that we're going to be hit with that first CME from a few days back, which isn't as powerful as either one of the X flares within the next 3 to 6 hours. Now tomorrow they're looking for up to a G3 geomagnetic storm from the first X 1.8 solar flare, and they have it lasting quite a long period. I'll show you that. And so many people said that no coronal mass left the surface when you could see the halo coronal mass ejection on LASCO. Yes, we were saved. A good amount of that energy was sucked back into the sun, but also a good amount of that energy and plasma was also expelled in the form of a halo coronal mass ejection headed directly to Earth. So some people got it almost right. And remember, killer, well, check my video out from 3 days ago showing the association between geomagnetic storms and the link that is observable between strokes, heart attacks, and hospitalizations during those periods. Now, this is ACE real-time space weather. We're checking our work. You can see here that plasma is hitting just like I told you. So that next shoe to drop, the 3-hour shoe, maybe before we're done with this, is going to be a geomagnetic storm or disturbance. We have our shields pointed north, but here we see that our BZ has gone south on us, and that's no good. If that continues south or stays below the zero, you can see that this is also turning south here all the way to the bottom. Bad news. So it's both happening at the same time, and the plasma is, well, knocking at the door. Solar winds here, well, about 525. I guess the start of the day here, about 525. And they're up to, I guess, about 570, as we saw on Discover. Now, both ACE and Discover are 1 million miles above Earth to give us a little bit of a warning here at what's called Lagrange point 1. And you can see the temperature, which, hey, increase in plasma usually means an increase in temperature. That's not what we're seeing at all. Look at this spike in temperature back here. Plasma is way down here at 1 and 2. And solar winds aren't very impressive in the 550 range or 525 range, while the temperatures are elevated here. What's so strange is to watch these temperatures, drop like this with that plasma hitting. Very strange indeed. Now, the folks in charge of the KP index usually do a lot better job than the folks in charge of the Space Weather Prediction Center. They have us hit by the first CME very lightly with a G1. And this is going to be from 4 p.m. Central to 7 p.m. Central. So they don't have us being hit now, although I believe that we're being hit now, as you saw, the plasma. Then they have that second X flare going up to, I guess, a G2 here and lasting 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18 hours in G1 and G2 territory. And they have not plotted the X flare that just occurred today, the X 1.21. Sometimes our plasma can be seen better on this scale here. And you can see that it did spike over 20 centimeters at least once. And there's been several spikes over 10, 10 being right in this area here. You can see that line right there, which is 10. Goes right through here. So we are definitely getting hit by plasma that's in the space weather threshold or past the space weather threshold. But the temperatures are dropping, which is so strange. And there goes our BZ south. Big trouble with it that far south. You can see that it's at negative 2.13. So big problems. BZ South means big problems or even light geomagnetic storms, as we learned this week. All right, STO, it was actually posted today. The government is back open officially. That means we're going to be able to see the backside of the sun next, I think. You can see that Delta class sunspot up there with the positive over the negative umbrellas, and it looks just horrific. This is going to be our beta gamma, and I told you the sunspot's going to be changed to be beta gamma very shortly. You can also see that one sunspot, barely see it coming around the limb. We'll see it much better on SOHO in just a moment. All right, SOHO 284 angstroms. You can't really see this because it was taken at 8:06 last night Central Time. So this is a little bit dated, but you can see that there's two large sunspot groups coming around the limb here, and I'd say that they'd be, well, named by tomorrow. This could be a coronal hole developing here, so we'll keep an eye on this. And we all know that, well, we have a beta gamma sunspot group here. This one looks like it's morphing. There's a possibility that this looks like it's morphing as well. And this is a Delta class sunspot responsible for 2 X flares thus far. And that has gone around the limb. While they should be back to work, they still have not updated any of the backside information. You can see this is from September 11th. They at least updated the one STO picture. Gosh, folks. You'd think by noon they'd have most of this done. All right, taking a look at Euphoria, the ESA, European Space Agency's spiral, if you will. Looks like they had us getting hit on the 8th, which didn't occur. It should now happen on the 10th. They have us, I guess this is the 10th here. No, it's the 10th here. They have us getting hit on the 11th by a small CME. This must be the first X flare, the X 1.8, and they haven't modeled the next one. I don't know where they got this from. Well, mind-blowing. I guess that happened on, let's see, the 7th, 8th, and nothing occurred. All right, solar winds, where do they have us today? They have us starting out the day at 6:50. We started the day out at what was it, 575. They have us finishing the day out at about 500, and we're at about 575. So, we'll see if the solar winds dwindle away. They do have us being hit by heavy solar winds again tomorrow, which should be plasma, because tomorrow and or later today should be a CME impact, i.e. a solar flare that created a coronal mass ejection, not a coronal hole that created a coronal stream or coronal stream winds, solar winds. So I don't know what they're thinking, but this is all incorrect information, a waste of good European tax dollars, it looks like. And finally, over to the planets today. You can see Earth is right here. We have a geomagnetic connection to Uranus, Eris, Neptune, Saturn, and Sirius. We're about to have one with Mercury and Jupiter, and that moon is looping around to line up with, well, get in between the sun and all these gas giants behind us for the 19th, 20th, and 21st. Now we can have X flares with these gas giants behind us and the sun here at any moment, and we're seeing that. And there's an increased percentage or increased chance with those gas giants behind us that we will have solar flaring. As you see, we progress. We catch tomorrow on 11/11 a geomagnetic connection to Mercury, and then Jupiter on the 13th. Watch that moon come around. Now we really have some connections here. Watch Mercury come right into the perfect spot here. This looks hellacious. There's the 19th. Wow. It's a perfect cross. Perfect cross. If you read the RCA manual that was written for the military on radio alternation is really what it was written on, but it talks about mostly solar flares. This is the perfect setup for very large solar flares and a lot of problems with ham radios and radio equipment in general. Then the 20th, you can see it's generally the same setup, and maybe into the 21st, and we might see the earthquake activity happen after that, if not during that time period, because the plates have to charge. It just depends. The plates are obviously charging every moment. We've got that big swarm off the Japanese coast of over 200 earthquakes, and well, as they build more and more nuclear plants all around Japan. With that said, God bless you guys. Get ready. The storm is coming. Please share. Give us a thumbs up. Make sure to give us a thumbs up. Please help us with a cup of coffee if you can. The channel works hard, and it really motivates us when you show your appreciation. And always remember, guys, that anything's possible. Bizarro world. God bless you all.